In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a radiator on your Hyundai Sonata. Let's get started. To drain the coolant faster, remove the top cap. We're going to loosen the drain plug on the bottom of the radiator. Make sure you have a drain bucket under the spout. Remove the two 10mm bolts for the intake. Lift up and remove the intake. Remove the 10mm bolt for the cooling hose bracket. Remove the connector for the fan assembly. There's a push button right here. Push on that and pull back. Remove the connector. Remove the connectors on the front of the intake. Push those connectors down out of the way. We're going to pull these connectors off of the bracket. Push those three connectors down. Then we're going to have two 10mm bolts holding on that bracket. We'll remove those. That's one. Remove the bracket and the bolts. Using a 10mm socket, remove the bolt on the side of the fan. Do the same thing on the other side. On either side of the fan, you're going to find one of these plastic clips. This is the last thing holding the fan in. You're going to push this back with your finger and then pull up on the fan and it'll come out of the bracket. Pushing the coolant hose backwards, lift up on the fan assembly. Remove the radiator fan. Remove the coolant overflow hose from the radiator. I'm going to open up the reservoir for the coolant. I'm going to put the hose inside of there. That'll hold that for me. Remove the radiator cap. Pinch the clamp for the upper radiator hose. Slide the clamp back. Pull the hose off of the radiator. I'm going to tuck this up out of the way. Pinch the clamp. Push it down. And we're going to pull the hose off. When we pull this off, there should be some transmission fluid. I have a hook on the top up here that's kind of going to the air box. When I pull this hose up, I'm going to pull it up, put it in this hook, and try and get it above the transmission so it doesn't continue to leak. Repeat the same process for the lower hose. I'm going to remove the plugs off of the new radiator. To help not drip all over the car when we take this radiator out, I'm going to put these caps over where we just took the lines off. Pinch the clamp for the lower radiator hose. Slide the clamp back. Pull the hose off. Using a 10mm socket, remove the bolts for the upper radiator support bushings. There's two on each side. Remove the bolts. Push the radiator towards the engine. Remove these top grommet brackets. On the back of the radiator, we're going to push on these tabs and we're going to unlock them. When we do this, we're going to pull up on the condenser and pull it out of the clip. We're going to do this on both sides. Pull the condenser up. Pull it off of the radiator and remove the radiator. Make sure that the rubber grommets are still sitting in the lower radiator support. There will be one on either side. If they're missing out of this lower radiator support, check the bottom of the old radiator. They may have gone with it. If you need to reinstall them, just drop it into place. Install the new radiator. Drop it down into place. I'm going to leave it leaning towards the car. I'm going to lift my condenser up. And I'm going to drop it into that bottom locator tab. Make sure that the condenser sits into the locator tabs on the back of the radiator. There'll be one on either side. Pull the condenser up. Get it started in the locking tab. Double check that it's still sitting in the locator tab on the bottom. Do the same thing on the other side. Get everything lined up. I'm going to pull up on the radiator as I push down on the side of the condenser. Get the tabs to lock in. Just like that. Make sure they're locked in on both sides. Install the brackets on top of the radiator. Make sure the radiator is sitting inside of its grommets on the lower radiator support. Pull it back into place. Get one bolt started. Push the other side of the bracket back. Get the other bolt started. Repeat this process on the other side. Snug down the bolts. Install the lower radiator hose onto the radiator. Pinch the clamp. Pull it back into position. Install the transmission line. Pinch the clamp and pull it back into position. Do the same thing for the top line. Install the upper radiator hose. Pull the clamp back into position. Grab the hose out of the coolant tank, install it into the radiator. Install the hose into the washer tank. Install the radiator cap. Install the fan into the vehicle. Take your time getting this in. It is a very tight space. Just keep looking around, making sure you're not getting caught anything. Put it in down this way, and then once you're in, twist it sideways. When installing the radiator fan, be sure that these bottom plastic clips are clipped in. Install the bracket and get the bolts started. Snug the bolts down. Reach down and grab the connectors. We're going to install these onto the bracket, line them up, and push them straight down. Grab the connectors from up top. We'll go through and connect them. Push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull, make sure it's locked on. Install the bolts on either side of the fan assembly. Get them started by hand and snug them down. Install the connector for the fan assembly. Push until you hear a click. Install the 10mm bolt for the coolant hose. Install the intake. Start pushing it on the top and then allow it to seat in when you hinge it down. Get the bolts started. Snug them down. Close the petcock for the radiator. Install the coolant funnel. Fill the radiator with fluid. Once the radiator's full, go ahead and start the car. Wait for bubbles to stop coming out of this. Run the car for about 5 to 15 minutes. Keep looking at the temperature gauge, make sure it doesn't overheat. Once the bubbles stop coming out, the car stops drinking coolant. Go ahead and remove your coolant funnel. Install the radiator cap, and then double check that your reservoir is full.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.